Well, the cooperative movement started in 1844, Toad Lane, Manchester. Now, the background to that is that in those days, England didn't suffer the problem that we suffered in the West Indies because they didn't have that type of situation of slavery. But they had difficulty in terms of the ordinary people surviving in a situation where you had rich people living off the poor. And as a result, they made life very difficult for poor people in that a number of the richer people ensured that poor people had no chance of getting beyond where they were. So as a matter of fact, you had children not being able to go to school because they had to assist the parents who were workers. Right? So they were children labor in support of the parents. And you'll be surprised to know that there was this phenomenon where parents who were workers sometimes left the legacy of work or continuity rather than what you normally expect to leave a property for a child as a successor. You leave work and you leave problems that they had to solve. It's a continued problem, but that was the system at the time. So the weavers in Manchester, who were ordinary workers, decided that they had to do something about it. And a number of these weavers got together, about 28 of them, and decided to form a togetherness, that is getting people together to solve the financial problems that they had. And so they came up with this idea of starting off with a grocery. And the grocery was the first consumer cooperative that was set up in Manchester in 1844, whereby the people were able to put money into this grocery from their little salaries that they got, their little wages, and buy goods and sell among themselves. But the important thing at the time was to ensure that they got proper weight and proper prices, because the bigger fellas were actually shortchanging them. So they suffered two things. Apart from their poverty, they had the problem of not getting proper service, proper weight and value for their money. So they came up with this idea of setting up the grocery, their own grocery. This is where the thing actually all started. As you will see there on top, those are the 13 men who were formed the first board from the 20 weavers. And this board was the board that came together for setting up the grocery that you see beneath. And on top, on the right-hand corner, is later on the development of a cooperative bank based on the same principle that was set up for the cooperative. After the Toad Lane experience, the Germans became completely taken up with what they heard was going on in England. And as a result, they had their own problems in the country. But their problem was not so much the question of goods and services as the English people had, but they more had problem in terms of banking services to the ordinary member, the ordinary citizen. And they decide to use the same cooperative principles, the same method that Rochdale was using for the development of grocery, to use those same methods for the development of a financial institution that can give banking services to ordinary people. And that is where the credit union idea was formed. Now the credit union was not known as credit union by the founding fathers in Germany. Now in Germany you had this guy John Charles de Leach, and you had Frederick Reiferson. They were people who had welfare ideas about developing ordinary people. I think one was a mayor and the other one was a financier. But those were philanthropists, philosophical type people who had the welfare of ordinary people in their view. And as a result, they decided to do something to alleviate the bad conditions that these people, or bad experiences they were having in a situation where the banks were taking advantage of ordinary people. And they called their cooperative Savings and Loan Cooperatives. So in Germany, they started the Savings and Loan Cooperative, which, when it was brought to the West, because of the American system of capitalism, they took the same idea, but they called it credit union. So in Germany and on the continent, you had loans and saving cooperatives. And those loans and saving cooperatives, when they were brought to the West by Alphonse Desjardins, a journalist from Quebec, Quebec in Canada, he brought back the idea from Germany to the West in 1900. And then the Americans heard about it, and a fellow by the name of Andrew Filene. He was also a philanthropist and a developer. And he thought, just like the Germans thought, that they should be able to help poorer people by making services to them similar to what was happening in Germany. So Filene came up, asked Desjardins to come over to United States in 1906, and they discussed together with a lawyer who was a friend of Filene by the name of John Burgeon Gren, and they were very taken up with this idea, became concerned about spreading it throughout the length and breadth of the United States. So John Burgeon Gren took the idea and ran with it and helped to develop the idea of the credit union in the United States. There's a Jesuit priest by the name of Father O'Sullivan, came I think from, I can't remember exactly what, I think it's Boston, came from. And he was sent to Jamaica. And in Jamaica, he brought that idea that was now taking roots in the United States to Jamaica. And the Jamaicans fell in love with it because they found it was very good. And in our case, in the West Indies, where you had slavery and that sort of thing as a background, it means that you're getting out of colonialism. And ordinary citizens really needed something whereby they would be able to replace the bartering that they used to do, exchanging goods and running susu and things like that. They were able to get something that was giving you banking services at a reasonable rate of interest. Now, we had he was a trade union, the officer from government responsible for registration of trade union and these other types of organizations, by the name of Malcolm Mill. He went to Jamaica to look at the Jamaican experience in terms of the cooperative movement. And he was very impressed with it. And when he came back to Trinidad, he explained exactly how this thing was catching up in Jamaica and the people were benefiting so much from it. And this is something that we should try in Trinidad. Now, he was the Register for Trade Unions and Friendly Societies. Now, Friendly Societies, in the early days of Trinidad, was one of the systems that the ordinary people used in order to benefit them, mainly at the time of death, because people couldn't bury their dead because they didn't have money. And when they had the friendly society, they had some arrangement whereby they were certain that they would have enough money to take care of their funerals and things like that. When the credit union came, it upgraded that. So Malcolm Mill thought that, okay, now that we have this thing, we don't really need to promote friendly societies. We will promote. So in 1945, when he came back from Jamaica, and he preached this doctrine out, passed it out to the ministry. In 1946, Dr. Waterman, who was also a social-minded person, these social-minded people were really reasonably well off, who had a mind for helping the poorer class. And he was in charge of the hospital in Port of Spain, Dr. Waterman. And he founded the first credit union, which was Health Services Credit Union, in 1946. And from that one in Port of Spain, others caught on. You had Father Mengo in San Fernando, started together with Father Moore, Irish Dutch, something like that. They formed a credit union, Catholic Credit Union in San Fernando, and eventually they went over to Point-de-Pierre, and so it caught on. And by the time it reached Le Bray, there was this parish priest from Point Forte as well, Father McNamara. And if you observe, a lot of priests were featuring in the development. I don't think people realize how much the Catholic Church featured in the development of Cooperative in Trinidad in particular, in the world overall, but in Trinidad in particular. Because even when they formed the league, the person who was at the head of that was Father Long, Father Delahunt, and these people, right? In order to form the league, that was the parent body or the secondary body for credit union. That. So you had credit union start spreading. So by the time it reached Le Bray became very, very strong with Father Delahunt, Father McNamara, assisting in Mr. Peter Roach, who was the sanitary inspector in the area at the time, and some other people in the area formed this powerful credit union. And at one time, that credit union was the strongest credit union in Trinidad, to the point that its president became the first deputy commissioner for Cooperative in Trinidad, Sir Peter Roach, right? I should tell you how much it caught up in Deep South. The whole idea of the cooperative concept is to help people, get people together to help develop themselves by serving themselves in the interest of themselves. So it's people serving people to serve and help themselves, as distinct from people investing money in order to make interest to service their wants and their desire. So I think what I've done there is to give you an outline. Now, sometime later, I'm willing to ask questions in terms of the peculiar development of our own organization. But what I've done here is to give you a broad outline of the development of the cooperative movement from Rochdale and from Reiferson and John Delich from Germany to the present time.